Rejected and abandoned simply because I was born a boy, I am now a self-made millionaire. 20 years after being cast aside, I receive a shocking message: my biological parents, who discarded me, are now begging for money, but not for themselves, for my sister's education.
Parents put me up for adoption as a kid because I was a boy. Now they contacted me after 20 years asking for money to fund my sister's education. I am 25M. My story goes back to the time when I was 6, or rather since the time I was born. I'm the third and youngest child of my parents. We were not rich, but my parents made decent money to raise 3 kids. We lived in a small town in an ancestral house, which saved us a lot of expenses. Grandparents own a farm that sufficed a significant portion of our kitchen needs. Dad is a truck driver and comes home every 3 to 4 days. Mom works as a waitress. My parents already had 2 daughters when they conceived me. I was the unplanned one, and you know the sentiments of the parents when an unplanned child pops up. Obviously, I didn't know about all this as a kid. But as I grew up, I started understanding these terms in bits and pieces, and it wasn't pleasant to know that I'm unwanted. My parents wanted to get rid of me, but the doctor advised against it because it could have led to some major health concerns for my mother. My parents, especially my mother, wanted a girl. Her reason was very simple: she wanted me to use the discarded clothes of my elder siblings so that she didn't have to buy new clothes for me. My 2 elder sisters had a year of age gap, so they pretty much had the same sized clothes interchangeably. It was fun for them. However, when I was born as a boy, my parents were disappointed. They hated my guts. They dressed me in girls' clothes and even sent me to school with my sister's discarded uniform. It was just so embarrassing for me as a kid. Though I was very small at that time, I still have a blurred memory of how I was being bullied for wearing a girl's uniform and long hair. If I even complained about it, all I got was a thrashing from my mom. I grew up hearing nothing but abuse and harsh words from my parents, most of which I didn't use to understand that, and when I understood, I hated my parents. Dad was still better than Mom, but he used to be away for most of the days and was flaky in nature. On some days, I thought he was neutral between all 3 of us, and on some days he behaved as evil as Mom, if not more. I won't say I was a saint kid. I used to revolt when I started understanding their biases towards me and my sisters. They always got the best of everything and I got their leftovers. So I started being evil to them because as a kid I held them responsible for my misery. Yes, I was grounded for my actions, sometimes quite severely. I had to make my own breakfast and was left without dinner on many occasions. Understand the pleas of a 6-year-old going through this. There was one incident that I remember quite vividly, and I think that was the game changer of my life. That day or that week, I don't remember exactly, I was being severely bullied in the playground for dressing up like a girl. I came home and found that Mom had brought some new clothes for my sisters for the holidays, and bam! I took a pair of scissors and cut them into confetti. I know I was wicked and I'm not proud of what I did, but I was 6, subjected to trolling because of my parents. It came from a place of pain and not evilness. Instead of understanding my pain, my parents considered that to be a sin that deserved the strictest punishment of all. They put me up for adoption. They waited for a month, but there were no takers, and that anger was also unleashed on me. I was constantly told how useless I am, that no one wants to have me. There were times I heard my mom saying I wished I had gender checked, I would have never got him into the world. It haunts me to know that my parents hate me so much, and for a reason that is not in my control. After some time, when there was no response for my adoption, they started talking about this to their friends and relatives. Dad had known someone next town who ran a food van with his wife. They were relatively poorer than us, but wanted a child. They were in their late 30s and had been trying for a child for more than a decade, but there was no luck. Dad spoke to them and they readily agreed to adopt me. I remember that moment when Dad broke this news to Mom and my sisters. They were delighted and joyous to get rid of me. Dad also gave a disclaimer that they were poor and that I might never be able to attend school. Mom rolled her eyes and said, "Who cares, just drop in there tomorrow." I stood there numb at the corner, holding the curtain. No matter how much I hated my family, I was scared and hurt having to leave them. I had tears in my eyes, but I didn't cry out loud. They were so happy enjoying the moment that they forgot I was there. When Dad saw me in tears, he came forward, rubbed my back, and said, "Pack your stuff, we'll leave tomorrow morning to your new family." I cried out loudly when he said this, but I realized that it was going on deaf ears. So, I went to my room, packed my stuff, praying that my new family was less wicked. The next day, Dad drove me to the next town. I don't exactly remember the emotions I was going through, but I wasn't crying. Maybe I was just numb when I was leaving the house and throughout the drive. My new family was indeed poor. They had a tiny house with one room. They had renovated the storehouse into my room. I had no complaints because they at least made an effort to provide me with a room. I never had my own room or a bed. My sisters had a bed and I was put up on a cot at the corner of their room and a tiny closet for my belongings. This room was comparatively smaller than our room, but it was cozy. My new parents, Mary and John, were warm and loving, but I came from a disturbed household. I had never experienced that love. Yes, I saw my parents showering their love on my sisters, but never on me. I used to doubt my new parents' intentions and took their love to be just a temporary one. I tried not to get attached to them because I feared that they might also throw me away. Childhood trauma, you know. It took me many months to realize that they actually loved me and were not putting up a facade. Yes, my school was discontinued that year because my parents moved me here mid-session, but my new parents promised to get me to school next year. I witnessed how they worked extra hard to save money to get me into a school. That's when I started loving them back. My adoption turned out to be a blessing in disguise. My biological parents never showed up after shipping me to Mary and John. Honestly, I was relieved because here I was treated by my original identity as a boy. Mary and John were very hardworking people. They worked for 14 to 16 hours a day for their food truck. The truck was located just outside of their apartment, so I was not left alone when they were working. I could see them right through my bedroom window. Eventually, I started spending my day on the truck helping them with whatever I could.